Is Barbie secretly a communist? Elon Musk's mother models for a Chinese tech company. And Hong Kong places a bounty on 8 people overseas. That and more on this week's China News Headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Whenever you go online, you should be using a VPN like Surfshark to cover your tracks and protect your identity. I'll tell you more at the end. Is Barbie a communist? After all, pink is only a shade away from red. And believe me, that won't be the stupidest thing you hear today, because the Barbie movie has been banned in Vietnam. It's because of this map. You see those dotted lines next to Asia? Apparently, the Vietnamese government thought that was showing China's 9-dash line, China's absurd claim to basically everything in sight, including the waters around Vietnam. So yes, the Vietnam government saw this and thought it was clearly making a political statement. By the way, the Barbie map only has 8 dashes. They couldn't even do their research right. But speaking of movies in China, the Pentagon is cracking down on Hollywood studios that try to appease China. According to the new rules, the DoD will not provide production assistance if a movie complies with a demand from China, especially censorship. Now, if you're like me, you're wondering, what work does the Department of Defense do with Hollywood anyway? Besides possibly making the next live-action G.I. Joe film, that is. I mean, there's apparently a Barbie movie, so why not? What's that, Shelley? They already have a G.I. Joe film franchise? We officially live in the weirdest timeline. Anyway, according to Politico, the Pentagon has allowed filmmakers to shoot their projects on military bases, Navy ships, or other locations and weigh in on filmmaking processes. The military benefits from positive portrayals of service members, and movie makers benefit from authentic settings and technical expertise. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is in China. Right before she left, she talked on the phone with China's ambassador to the U.S., Xie Feng. The U.S. called it a frank and productive discussion about issues of concern for the U.S., and there are plenty of concerns. The call came just as China imposed export restrictions on 2 metals used in semiconductors and solar panels. China didn't say why it imposed the restrictions, but many see it as retaliation for the U.S. putting restrictions on microchips being sold to China. While we don't know if they discussed the metal restrictions, the timing makes it seem likely. And after the break, is China using Elon Musk's mom to gain influence? Welcome back. Is China trying to buy more Musk influence? That's a question floating around after it was revealed that his mother, May Musk, who's a model, signed a contract with Chinese tech company Oppo to be the brand ambassador to its Find X6 Pro smartphone. The South China Morning Post got leaked videos and photos showing May Musk promoting the smartphone. In the video, she shares photos of her 3 kids and says this:
"I hope it takes them to space and beyond."
As of this recording, Oppo hasn't officially released the commercial or any of the photos associated with the leak. But the Musks certainly are making a good deal of money off the China market. Hong Kong has put a bounty on the heads of 8 Hong Kong democracy activists. Hong Kong police announced on Monday a bounty of $1 million Hong Kong, which is about $120,000 US dollars per person. The activists were accused of violating Hong Kong's very vague national security law, which was imposed by Beijing in 2020. The crazy thing about that law is it applies to everyone anywhere in the world. The 8 people currently reside across Australia, the UK, and the US, which have each condemned Hong Kong's efforts to silence dissidents. I doubt these countries will extradite them. However, they do need to be careful when they travel to other countries in case those countries do have extradition treaties with China. Hong Kong's chief executive John Lee said the 8 activists would be pursued for life. And speaking of John Lee, there's a bit of conflict over Lee traveling to the U.S. Lee has been sanctioned by the U.S. since 2020 for his role as Hong Kong's Secretary of Security. But there's an APEC meeting in San Francisco this November, and China has made it clear it wants Lee to go, despite the sanctions. There was some confusion after the State Department told Congress he would be invited. It later walked that back, but remained ambiguous about whether it would invite him in the future. Several U.S. lawmakers and activist groups have asked the State Department to make sure he doesn't come. I say the U.S. should strike a deal with him. He can come to APEC if Hong Kong drops all its national security law charges. That would mean about 260 people arrested in Hong Kong, as well as all those wanted outside Hong Kong, would have their charges dropped. That way, the U.S. will be standing up for democracy and Li will get his symbolic visit to the U.S. Win-win. Now this will shock you, but apparently big banks are kind of scummy. US and UK lawmakers are accusing the bank HSBC of preventing people fleeing Hong Kong from getting their money. HSBC has said it's just complying with local laws. You know, the kind of laws that say democracy activists will be pursued for life. And after the break, the EU is cutting trade ties with China. Welcome back. The US is concerned over China's influence in UNESCO. So much so, the US has decided to rejoin. The U.S. got approved last Friday after a majority of members voted in favor of letting the U.S. back in. And now that it's back, China is warning the U.S. against confrontation and divisions. The U.S. pulled out of UNESCO under the Trump administration in 2018. It cited problems with members not paying, bias against Israel, and the need for reform. But the EU may be finally wising up on China. They've agreed in principle to a de-risking strategy on China. Leaders from the 27-country bloc were united around the concept, but the details still have to be hammered out. After how Europe got burned because it was dependent on energy from Russia last year, Europe is trying to avoid a similar situation with China, especially since China continually threatens to invade Taiwan and start World War III. And this episode has been sponsored by Surfshark. Whenever you go online, everything you do is being tracked and logged by the websites you visit and your internet service provider, and in many cases, by your government. That's why no matter where you live or what you do online, you should always be keeping your internet activity private with a VPN. And now, Surfshark has servers you can connect to in over 100 countries. That's more than any other VPN. So that makes your connection faster and more reliable. Plus, Surfshark has top-of-the-line encryption and a no-logs policy, meaning they don't collect your browsing data. In fact, Surfshark was rated Editor's Choice for the best VPN for privacy and security by PC Mag. So check out Surfshark. With just one Surfshark account, you can connect as many devices as you want. So try it out now. Surfshark has a special deal that includes 83% off a 2-year plan, plus 3 extra months for free. You can protect yourself for just $2.21 a month. So go to surfshark.com/uncensored and use the code UNCENSORED to secure this deal. The link is in the description below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.